The stars looked different out here in the far reaches of space where no human had ever traveled before. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Discovery and watched the endless darkness filled with points of light that seemed to whisper secrets of worlds unknown. His crew had been exploring this sector for 3 months now, mapping new star systems and looking for signs of life or resources that might help Earth's growing colonies. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and steady green eyes that had seen many worlds, but never anything like what appeared on his screens today. The bridge crew worked quietly around him, each person focused on their tasks, as they approached what their sensors had detected as a solar system with several planets that might support life. Lieutenant Amy Chen sat at the communication station. Her black hair pulled back in a neat bun as she monitored frequencies for any signs of intelligent signals. She had been with Jake's crew for 2 years and had become one of his most trusted officers. Next to her, Navigator Sam Brooks studied the star charts and calculated their approach vectors with the careful precision that had saved their lives more than once. Commander Ben Torres, Jake's second-in-command, walked over to stand beside the captain's chair. Ben was a solid man with dark skin and thoughtful eyes who never spoke unless he had something important to say. He had been Jake's friend since their academy days and knew how to read the captain's moods better than anyone else on the ship. "Sir, we're picking up some unusual energy readings from the third planet," Ben said quietly so only Jake could hear. "It looks like there might be artificial structures on the surface and possibly ships in orbit." Jake felt his heart speed up just a little. This was what every explorer dreamed of finding, but also what every captain feared. First contact with an alien species could go very well or very badly, and there was no way to know which it would be until it happened. "How many ships?" Jake asked, keeping his voice calm even though his mind was racing with possibilities and procedures he had memorized but never had to use. "At least 20, sir. Maybe more. They're big ones, too. Much larger than anything we've ever built," Ben replied, his hand moving unconsciously to rest on his sidearm. Dr. Lisa Hayes looked up from her science station where she had been studying the readings. She was a small woman with blonde hair and bright blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had spent years studying the possibility of alien life. But like everyone else on the ship, this was her first real encounter. "Captain, the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases," Lisa said. Her excitement barely contained despite the potential danger. "The technology appears to be far more advanced than ours, but the patterns suggest they use similar physical principles." Jake nodded and made his decision. "Amy, try to establish communication on standard first contact frequencies. Use the universal mathematical sequences we've prepared. Sam, slow our approach and be ready to change course quickly if needed. Ben, have all security teams ready but keep weapons powered down unless I give direct orders." The next few minutes passed slowly as Amy sent out carefully crafted signals designed to show peaceful intent and intelligence. The crew waited in tense silence, knowing that their next few actions might determine whether humanity made its first alien friends or enemies. Then the communication board lit up with an incoming signal that was so clear and strong it seemed impossible. Amy's eyes went wide as she put the signal through the ship's speakers, and everyone on the bridge heard a voice that was definitely not human, but spoke perfect English. "Human vessel USS Discovery. This is Queen Lyra of the Zephyrian Empire. We welcome you to our space and request permission to speak with your commanding officer. We come in peace and wish to discuss matters of great importance to both our peoples." The bridge fell completely silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Jake felt like someone had just hit him in the chest with a heavy weight. Not only had they found intelligent alien life, but these beings knew about humans and could speak their language perfectly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Discovery," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady and professional. "We accept your welcome and are honored by your peaceful greeting. We would be happy to speak with you about matters of mutual interest." "Captain Morrison, I must speak with you privately about an urgent situation that affects both our species. May I request a private communication channel?" The alien queen's voice was beautiful and musical, but Jake could hear something like desperation underneath her formal words. Jake looked at Ben, who nodded slightly. This was highly unusual, but they had no protocols for dealing with alien royalty, who already knew about humans. Of course, Your Majesty. Amy, establish a secure private channel. The main screen shifted to show the most beautiful and strange being Jake had ever seen. Queen Lyra appeared mostly human, but with skin that shimmered like blue pearls in sunlight and long silver hair that seemed to move like water. Her eyes were large and golden, filled with intelligence and something that looked very much like fear. Captain Morrison, I must ask something of you that will sound impossible and desperate. Because that is exactly what it is, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I need you to marry me, or in 3 days I will lose my crown and my people. Will fall under the rule of a tyrant who will bring war to this entire sector of space. Jake felt his mouth fall open and quickly closed it, trying to process what he had just heard. Of all the things he had prepared for during first contact, scenarios, a marriage proposal from an alien queen was definitely not one of them. Your Majesty, I'm not sure I understand, he managed to say, his training helping him stay calm even though his mind was spinning. According to the ancient laws of my people, a ruler must be married before their 300th birthday or they must give up the crown to their nearest blood relative, Queen Lyra explained, her golden eyes never leaving his. My cousin Prince Kale has spent years eliminating all suitable marriage candidates from my species through politics and assassination. He believes this will force me to step down and give him the throne. She paused, and Jake could see tears forming in her strange, beautiful eyes. But our laws do not specify that the marriage must be to another Zephyrian. Any intelligent being from any species can fulfill the requirement. Kale never expected me to encounter humans, and now you are here just in time to save my people from his cruel rule. Please, Captain Morrison, will you help me save my empire from falling into the hands of a warmonger? Jake stared at the alien, Queen on his screen, knowing that his next words might change the course of human history forever. Jake Morrison felt the weight of the entire galaxy pressing down on his shoulders as he stared at Queen Lyra's image on his screen. The beautiful alien ruler waited for his response with golden eyes that held both hope and desperation. But Jake knew he needed more information before making any decision that could affect the future of humanity. Your Majesty, this is an enormous request that requires careful consideration, Jake said, choosing his words with the same precision he would, used to navigate through an asteroid field. I need to understand more about your situation and what this marriage would mean for both our peoples. Queen Lyra nodded, seeming to understand his caution. Of course, Captain. I would not expect you to make such a decision without full knowledge of what is at stake. May I send one of my advisors to your ship to explain our laws and customs? I believe face-to-face discussion would help you understand the gravity of our situation. Jake looked at Commander Ben Torres, who had been listening to every word with growing concern written across his dark features. Ben gave a slight nod, understanding that they needed more information even though the risks were enormous. We would welcome such a meeting, Jake agreed. We'll prepare to receive your representative in our main conference room. Within an hour, a small Zephyrian shuttle had docked with the USS Discovery, and Jake found himself sitting across a polished table from the most unusual being he had ever met. The advisor introduced herself as Minister Zara, an elderly Zephyrian woman whose skin had faded from the bright blue of youth to a soft silver color that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Dr. Lisa Hayes sat beside Jake, her scientific mind absorbing every detail of their visitor's appearance and mannerisms. She had brought her portable scanners and was discreetly gathering data about Zephyrian biology while listening to the political discussion. Minister Zara spread several crystalline devices on the table that projected detailed holographic images, showing star maps, government structures, and historical records. Her voice was patient and kind as she began to explain the complex situation facing the Zephyrian Empire. Our empire spans 47 star systems and includes over 200 inhabited worlds, she said, gesturing to the star map that showed a vast region of space. We have maintained peace and prosperity for over 5,000 of your Earth, years through careful diplomacy and fair governance. Commander Ben Torres leaned forward, his military mind immediately grasping the strategic implications. That's an enormous territory. How many people are we talking about? Approximately 12 billion Zephyrians, plus another 8 billion beings from various allied species who have chosen to live under our protection, Minister Zara replied. Queen Lyra has been preparing to rule since childhood, studying the cultures and needs of all these different peoples. Jake studied the holographic displays showing peaceful cities, advanced technology, and what appeared to be a thriving civilization. Tell me about Prince Kale and why the Queen fears his rule. Minister Zara's expression darkened, and the holographic display shifted to show military vessels and footage of what looked like training exercises involving weapons that could destroy entire planets. Prince Kale represents the old ways of thinking that nearly destroyed our civilization thousands of years ago, she explained. He believes that Zephyrians are superior to all other species, and that we should expand through conquest rather than peaceful cooperation. He has been building a secret military force and making alliances with other aggressive species in neighboring sectors. Dr. Lisa Hayes looked up from her scanner readings with concern in her blue eyes. Minister Zara, I'm detecting some unusual biological markers. Are you related to humans in some way? The elderly Zephyrian smiled for the first time since arriving. Dr. Hayes, your species and mine appear to have evolved from similar genetic roots millions of years ago. We are distant cousins, which is perhaps why we can understand each other so easily. This revelation hit Jake like a physical blow. Humans and Zephyrians were related, which meant that a marriage between the species was not just politically possible, but biologically appropriate. Lieutenant Amy Chen's voice came through the communication system, interrupting their discussion. Captain, we're receiving multiple messages from Earth Command requesting immediate status reports. Should I respond? Jake realized that news of their contact with aliens had probably reached Earth through their automated transmissions, but any response from headquarters would take weeks to reach them at this distance. He was truly on his own to make this decision. Tell Earth Command we are in peaceful contact with a friendly alien civilization and will provide full details when communication delays allow, he replied. Minister Zara continued her explanation, showing holographic records of Prince Kale's activities. The prince has been systematically removing Queen Lyra's potential marriage partners through various means. Some have died in suspicious accidents, others have been discredited politically, and several have simply disappeared. Security Chief Kate Williams, who had been quietly observing from the corner of the room, stepped forward. Minister, what kind of military forces does Prince Kyle control, and what threat does he pose to human colonies? The advisor's expression became even more grave as she manipulated the holographic display to show fleet positions and weapon capabilities. If Kale takes control of our empire, he will have access to technology that could eliminate your Earth colonies within months. He views humans as a potential threat to Zephyrian expansion and has already discussed plans to prevent your species from spreading further into space. Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. This was no longer just about helping an alien queen. It was about protecting humanity's future among the stars. Dr. Hayes had been studying the cultural and biological data that Minister Zara had provided. Captain, I need to explain something important about Zephyrian marriage customs. Their species evolved from creatures that mate for life, which means marriage is not just a political contract, but a deep biological and spiritual bond. If you agree to this, it will be much more significant than a simple alliance. Jake looked around the room at his officers, seeing understanding and concern in all their faces. They were asking him to make a decision that would affect not just his own life, but potentially the survival of human civilization. How much time do we have? He asked Minister Zara. 2 days and 14 hours until Queen Lyra's birthday, she replied. If she is not married by then, the law requires her to step down immediately. Commander Torres spoke up, his voice heavy with the weight of command decisions. Jake, we need to consider what happens if we refuse. Even if Queen Lyra finds another solution, we've now made contact with a hostile alien empire that has superior technology and sees us as a threat. Kate Williams nodded in agreement. Sir, from a strategic standpoint, an alliance with Queen Lyra gives us protection and access to advanced technology. If Prince Kale takes over, we become targets instead of allies. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the Zephyrian ships that surrounded his vessel. Each ship was beautiful and obviously powerful, representing a civilization, far older and more advanced than humanity. The choice he made in the next few hours would determine whether those ships became protectors or destroyers of human dreams among the stars. Minister Zara, I need to speak privately with Queen Lyra. Again, he said, turning back to face the alien advisor. There are questions only she can answer before I make my decision. The elderly Zephyrian bowed respectfully. Of course, Captain Morrison. The Queen is waiting for your call and hopes that you will find it in your heart to help save our people from the darkness that Prince Kale would bring. As Jake prepared to contact the alien queen who had asked him to save her empire, he wondered if he was about to become humanity's greatest hero or make the biggest mistake in human history. The emergency alarms on the USS Discovery began blaring just as Jake Morrison was preparing to make his second private communication with Queen Lyra. The sudden noise sent every crew member rushing to their stations while red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. Captain, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, Lieutenant Amy Chen reported from her communications station, her voice tight with concern. 43 vessels, all heavily armed and moving into attack. Formation. Jake felt his stomach drop as he realized what was happening. Prince Kale had arrived, and judging by the size of his fleet, he was not planning to settle this matter through peaceful negotiation. Commander Ben Torres was already at his tactical station, analyzing the new threat. Sir, these ships are even larger than Queen Lyra's fleet, and our sensors are detecting weapons systems that could vaporize us in seconds. The main screen flickered, and suddenly displayed the image of the most intimidating alien Jake had ever seen. Prince Kale was tall and muscular with deep blue skin that looked almost black in the harsh lighting of his ship's bridge. His eyes were cold silver instead of the warm gold of his cousin, and his expression showed nothing but contempt and barely controlled rage. Human captain, you will remove your primitive vessel from Zephyrian space immediately, Prince Kale commanded, his voice like thunder rolling across a battlefield. You have no business interfering in the internal affairs of a superior species. Jake straightened his shoulders and put on his most professional military bearing, knowing that showing any sign of fear or weakness would probably get his entire crew killed. Prince Kale, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Federation. We are here by invitation of Queen Lyra, and we have every right to remain in space that she controls. The alien prince's lips curved into something that might have been a smile but looked more like a predator showing its teeth. My cousin's authority ends in less than 2 days when she loses her crown due to her failure to marry. As the rightful heir to the Zephyrian throne, I order you to leave now or face the consequences. Before Jake could respond, Queen Lyra's image appeared in a split screen beside her cousin's, creating a stark contrast between her desperate beauty and his threatening presence. Kale, you have no authority to threaten peaceful visitors to our space, Queen Lyra said, though Jake could hear the strain in her musical voice. Captain Morrison and his crew are under my personal protection. Prince Kale laughed, a harsh sound that sent chills through everyone on the Discovery's bridge. Protection you will not be able to provide much longer, dear cousin. Unless you have managed to find a husband in the last few hours, your reign will end very soon. Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. Looking directly at Prince Kale's image on the screen, he spoke with the authority of someone who had commanded starships through dangerous situations for 15 years. Prince Kale, Queen Lyra has indeed found a husband. She has asked me to marry her, and I have accepted her proposal. The silence that followed Jake's announcement was so complete that the only sound was the quiet hum of the Discovery's life. Support systems. Prince Kale's silver eyes widened with shock before narrowing into something much more dangerous. Impossible, the prince snarled. Zephyrian law requires marriage to an equal, not to some primitive creature that has barely learned to travel between stars. Queen Lyra's image brightened with hope for the first time since Jake had met her. The law requires marriage to an intelligent being, cousin. Captain Morrison and his species have clearly demonstrated their intelligence and worthiness. Dr. Lisa, Hayes stepped forward, her scientific mind working through the implications of this confrontation. Captain, if I may suggest, we should request a formal hearing before the Zephyrian High Council to determine the validity of the marriage under their law. Minister Zara, who had remained aboard the Discovery during the crisis, nodded approvingly at the suggestion. Dr. Hayes is correct. Prince Kale cannot simply dismiss the marriage without proper legal proceedings. Prince Kale's expression grew even more threatening. Very well. If the human thinks he can prove his worth, let him try. I call for an immediate assembly of the High Council to determine whether this pathetic creature deserves to touch Zephyrian royalty. The screen went dark as both alien rulers ended their transmissions, leaving Jake and his crew to contemplate what they had just gotten themselves into. Chief Engineer Matt Johnson, who had been monitoring the alien ship configurations, from his station, looked up with concern written across his weathered face. "Captain, I've been analyzing their technology, and it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Their ships use some kind of crystalline energy matrix that makes our fusion reactors look like campfires." Security Chief Kate Williams was studying tactical displays showing the positions of all the ships in the area. "Sir, we're outnumbered about 60 to 1, and that's counting Queen Lyra's fleet as friendly. If this goes badly, we won't be able to fight our way out." Jake nodded grimly, understanding the stakes better than anyone. "Kate, I want you to prepare a full tactical analysis of human military capabilities and strategic thinking. If we're going to convince this High Council that humans are worthy allies, we need to show them what we can do." Commander Torres moved closer to Jake, speaking quietly so the alien advisor wouldn't overhear. "Jake, are you sure about this? You're talking about marrying someone you just met from a species we know nothing about." Jake looked at his old friend, seeing the concern and loyalty that had kept them alive through countless dangerous missions. "Ben, look at the alternatives. If Prince Kale takes control of this empire, humanity becomes his enemy by default. At least this way, we have a chance to build something positive." Navigator Sam Brooks had been plotting courses and analyzing the tactical situation from his station. "Captain, I've been studying the movement patterns of both fleets. Queen Lyra's ships are positioning themselves to protect us, while Prince Kale's forces are clearly preparing for battle. Whatever happens at this trial, it's going to determine whether we leave here as allies or enemies." Dr. Hayes was reviewing all the cultural and biological data they had gathered about the Zephyrians. "Captain, I think I understand what we're facing. This trial will not just be about legal technicalities, it will be about proving that humans deserve respect as an intelligent species." Jake felt the full weight of representing all of humanity in an alien court of law. Everything he said and did would be judged not just as an individual, but as an example of what humans could become among the stars. Lieutenant Chen received another communication from the Zephyrian fleet. "Sir, Queen Lyra is requesting permission to come aboard our ship to prepare for the trial. She says we need to understand Zephyrian legal procedures if we're going to have any chance of success." Jake approved the request, knowing that he needed all the help he could get. As he prepared to meet with the alien queen who wanted to become his wife, he wondered if he was about to save two civilizations or doom them both. The next few hours would determine not just his personal future, but whether humanity would find friends or enemies among the stars. The political gambit that had started with a desperate marriage proposal was about to become a test of everything that made humans worthy of respect in a galaxy full of older and more powerful species. "Minister," Zara looked at Jake with something that might have been admiration. "Captain Morrison, few beings in the galaxy would risk everything to help strangers even for such important stakes. Your species may be young, but you show wisdom beyond your years." As Jake prepared to face the most important trial of his life, he hoped that Minister Zara was right about human wisdom, because he was about to bet the future of humanity on his ability to prove their worth to alien judges. The Zephyrian High Council chamber was the most magnificent and intimidating place Jake Morrison had ever entered. The vast crystalline dome floated in space between the two fleets, its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of stars and ships, while 7 ancient judges took their positions on elevated platforms that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Jake stood beside Queen Lyra in the center of the chamber, both of them wearing formal robes that combined human and Zephyrian traditions. The Queen had insisted that their wedding ceremony take place before the trial, arguing that they needed to present the marriage as an accomplished fact rather than a future possibility. The ceremony itself had been surprisingly moving, with Jake's crew serving as witnesses alongside Zephyrian nobles who supported Queen Lyra's rule. When the moment came to exchange vows, Jake found himself looking into Queen Lyra's golden eyes and feeling something deeper than political necessity. "I, Jake Morrison, take you, Queen Lyra, to be my wife, to stand beside you in facing whatever challenges the future may bring." and to help build a bridge between our peoples that will last for generations, he had said, meaning every word. Queen Lyra's response had been equally heartfelt. I, Queen Lyra Vexithara, take you, Jake Morrison, to be my husband, to share the burdens of leadership with you, and to prove that different species can find common ground in love and mutual respect. Now they faced the High Council as a married couple, but Prince Kael was determined to prove that their union was invalid under Zephyrian law. The eldest judge, whose silver skin seemed almost transparent with age, spoke in a voice that echoed throughout the crystalline chamber. We are gathered to determine whether the marriage between Queen Lyra Vexithara and the human Jake Morrison satisfies the requirements of our ancient laws. Prince Kael has challenged this union, claiming that humans are not worthy marriage partners. For Zephyrian royalty! Prince Kael stepped forward, his imposing figure radiating confidence and contempt. Honored judges, our laws require the ruler to marry an equal, someone who can understand the complexities of governing a galactic empire. These humans are barely capable of traveling between stars, let alone comprehending the responsibilities of Zephyrian leadership. Jake felt his anger rising at the prince's dismissive words, but Queen Lyra touched his arm gently, reminding him to stay calm and dignified. She had coached him extensively on Zephyrian legal procedures during their brief preparation time. Prince, Kael speaks from ignorance and prejudice, Queen Lyra replied, her musical voice carrying clearly throughout the chamber. The human species has shown remarkable ingenuity, moral reasoning, and adaptability. Captain Morrison and his crew have already demonstrated qualities that many Zephyrians lack. Judge Thalax, whose blue skin was marked with intricate silver, patterns that indicated centuries of wisdom, leaned forward with interest. Queen Lyra, what evidence can you present to support your claims about human capabilities? Dr. Lisa Hayes stepped forward, carrying a portable display device that projected holographic images of human achievements. Honored judges, humanity has progressed from primitive tool use to interstellar travel in less than 10,000 years. We have developed complex societies based on cooperation, scientific inquiry, and moral principles. The judges studied the displays showing human art, technology, and social structures with obvious interest. Judge Corvin, the youngest member of the council, asked pointed questions about human problem-solving abilities and cultural adaptations. Commander Ben Torres presented tactical analyses that impressed even the military-minded judges, while Chief Engineer Matt Johnson demonstrated human technological innovations that solved problems in ways the Zephyrians had never considered. Security. Chief Kate Williams described human conflict resolution strategies and peacekeeping methods that had prevented wars and saved countless lives across Earth's history. Prince Kael listened to these presentations with growing frustration, clearly not expecting humans to be as capable as they were proving to be. These are minor accomplishments for such a young species, he argued. They still lack the wisdom and experience necessary to participate in galactic governance. Judge Valara, whose ancient features showed both intelligence and compassion, addressed Jake directly. Captain Morrison, you have heard Prince Kael's objections to your marriage. How do you respond to his claims about human unworthiness? Jake took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would determine the fate of both his marriage and humanity's place in the galaxy. Honored judges, I do not claim that humans are perfect or that we have nothing left to learn, but I believe that our youth as a species is actually an advantage, not a weakness. He gestured toward his crew members who had testified. We bring fresh perspectives to old problems, and we are willing to work with other species rather than trying to dominate them. Queen Lyra has shown me the beauty and wisdom of Zephyrian culture, and I hope that humans can contribute our own strengths to build something better than either species could achieve alone. The judges conferred quietly among themselves for several minutes before Judge Thalax spoke again. The evidence presented suggests that humans possess the intelligence, creativity, and moral reasoning required by our laws. However, Prince Kael raises a valid concern about experience and wisdom. Prince Kael smiled triumphantly, believing he had won his case. Exactly, honored judge. These creatures cannot possibly understand the complexities they would face as partners. To Zephyrian royalty, Judge Corvin surprised everyone by addressing Prince Kael directly. Prince, Your own actions during this succession crisis demonstrate a troubling lack of wisdom and restraint. You have eliminated marriage candidates through violence and intimidation, showing exactly the kind of thinking that led our species to near extinction in ancient times. The prince's silver eyes flashed with anger. I have acted to preserve Zephyrian purity and strength. You have acted to serve your own ambition, Judge Valara corrected firmly. The marriage between Queen Lyra and Captain Morrison shows more wisdom and courage than anything you have done. The eldest judge raised his hand for silence before making the council's decision. We find that the marriage between Queen Lyra Vexithera and Jake Morrison is valid under Zephyrian law. Captain Morrison has proven himself worthy through both his individual qualities and his representation of human potential. Prince Kyle's face twisted with rage. This is unacceptable. I will not allow inferior beings to contaminate the royal bloodline. You no longer have any say in royal matters, Queen Lyra replied with new authority in her voice. The law has been satisfied, and my crown is secure. But Prince Kale was not finished. Drawing an energy weapon that had been concealed beneath his formal robes, he aimed it directly at Jake. If I cannot have the throne through law, I will take it through force. The crystal chamber erupted in chaos as Prince Kale's supporters revealed their own weapons and began firing at Queen Lyra's guards. Jake found himself in the middle of a space battle fought with personal weapons in an environment where one stray shot could shatter the protective dome and kill everyone inside. Security Chief Kate Williams had anticipated this possibility and moved to shield Jake and Queen Lyra while drawing her own sidearm. The training that had made her one of Earth's best tactical officers served her well as she coordinated with Zephyrian royal guards to contain the threat. Dr. Hayes and Engineer Johnson worked together to activate emergency force fields that protected the judges and innocent bystanders while the battle raged around them. Commander Torres and Lieutenant Chen managed to establish communication with both fleets, calling for assistance as the political crisis turned into open warfare. Prince Kale himself advanced on Jake and Queen Lyra, his weapon charging with deadly energy. You think your primitive species can stand against Zephyrian might? He snarled. Jake stepped in front of his new wife, facing the armed prince with only his determination to protect her. I think that any species that chooses violence over justice has already lost what makes them truly strong. Before Prince Kale could fire, loyal Zephyrian guards overwhelmed him and his remaining supporters, ending the immediate threat but beginning a larger conflict that would determine the future of the Empire. As Jake held Queen Lyra in his arms, while chaos swirled around them, he realized that their marriage ceremony had become the opening battle in a war that would test everything they believed about cooperation, courage, and the possibility of peace among the stars. 6 months after the wedding that had shocked the galaxy, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Zephyrian Human Joint Station and watched as ships from a dozen different species approached through the stars. What had begun as a desperate marriage proposal had grown into something that was changing the political landscape of the entire galactic sector. Queen Lyra approached from behind, moving with the quiet grace that Jake had learned to recognize even without turning around. She wore a flowing gown that combined human and Zephyrian design elements, symbolizing the cultural fusion that had become the foundation of their relationship and their rule. The Andromedan delegation has just arrived, she said, slipping her hand into his as they watched the elegant spiral-shaped ships take their positions near the station. That makes 12 species who have requested to join the Galactic Cooperation Council. Jake smiled, remembering how impossible this would have seemed when he first heard Queen Lyra's desperate plea for marriage. And 3 more asking for formal trade agreements even if they don't want full membership yet. The months since their wedding had been challenging in ways that neither of them could have anticipated. Prince Kyle's attempted coup had failed, but not before splitting the Zephyrian military and forcing a civil war that lasted for weeks. Jake had found himself not just married to an alien queen, but actively participating in space battles as they fought to preserve Queen Lyra's rule and the progressive vision she represented. Commander Ben Torres had proven invaluable during the conflict, using human tactical innovations to help loyal Zephyrian forces outmaneuver Prince Kale's larger but more traditionally minded fleet. The final battle had taken place in the asteroid fields of the Nexus system, where human creativity and Zephyrian technology combined to defeat forces that should have been impossible to overcome. Dr. Lisa Hayes walked up to join them at the observation window, carrying a datapad filled with her latest research findings. Jake, Lyra, I have some exciting news about the joint research projects. The medical applications of combined human and Zephyrian knowledge are exceeding all our expectations. The integration of human and Zephyrian science had produced breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. Human intuition and willingness to experiment combined with Zephyrian precision and advanced technology were solving problems that had puzzled scientists for generations. Chief Engineer Matt Johnson had established a joint engineering corps that was developing new forms of faster-than-light travel, while Security Chief Kate Williams had created integrated peacekeeping forces that were maintaining stability across multiple star systems. The healing compound we developed is being tested by the Altarian Medical Institute, Dr. Hayes continued. If the trials are successful, we could eliminate most forms of cancer across 7 different species. Jake felt a deep sense of satisfaction at how their desperate gamble had turned into genuine cooperation that was improving lives throughout the galaxy. But more than the political and scientific achievements, he was surprised by how much his relationship with Queen Lyra had grown beyond the political necessity that had brought them together. What had started as a marriage of convenience had become a genuine partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and growing affection. Jake had learned to appreciate the beauty and wisdom of Zephyrian culture, while Queen Lyra had embraced human concepts of democracy and individual rights that were transforming how the Empire was governed. Lieutenant Amy Chen's voice came through the communication system, announcing the arrival of another significant visitor. Captain Morrison, Queen Lai.